Hello everyone, this is AndresRestart, and today I would like to talk about all the big Nintendo titles that have yet to been revealed that could be announced relatively soon. Following the most recent Nintendo Direct, there has been a lot of conversation that Nintendo is still holding back quite a bit, and I do agree with this. I do think they have some pretty good things for this year. We've gotten Mario Kart World, Donkey Kong Bonanza, and we're also going through a pretty interesting period of time right now where we just got Mario Galaxy 1+2. A few weeks from now, we're going to be getting Pokemon Legends ZA. A few weeks after that, Hyrule Warriors Age of Imprisonment. Then a few weeks after that, Kirby Air Riders. And then a few weeks after that, what I believe will be the best game of the year, Metroid Prime 4 Beyond, on December 4th. We're going to have about a 2-month period of time where we're going to have 5 substantial Nintendo releases. So I don't want this conversation to be construed in any way that I think Nintendo has had a bad 2025. I think it's good. Could it have been better? Probably, but still pretty good, and they are likely still in a great position to have incredible success and have maybe an even better 2026, especially considering some of the things that could be announced next year. And when we take a look at all the different Nintendo teams that are close to announcing something pretty soon, I gotta say I think there's a lot here to be very excited about. So that's what we're getting into today. Now, I will take this moment to point out that I do have this goal to reach 60,000 subscribers by the end of the year, so if you find yourself enjoying my content, your support is immensely appreciated, be that in the form of likes, comments, or a subscription. And of course, if you're unsure, watch through the video and then decide, but for all those who have been supporting me, you have been making a big difference. Taking a look at some third-party companies where there's a great chance they could be announcing something fairly soon, we have, for example, Ubisoft. Ubisoft has come out with some pretty big exclusives or timed exclusives for the last few Nintendo generations. For Nintendo Wii, we had Red Steel. For Nintendo Wii U, we had Zombie U. And for Nintendo Switch, we had Mario + Rabbids Kingdom Battle. And then they created a sequel in Mario + Rabbids Sparks of Hope. And that series saw great success, so I think there's plenty of reason to think that for Switch 2, Ubisoft would want to do something similar. So what might that be? I think in terms of the Mario Rabbids series, odds are the next entry is just going to be a Switch 2 edition of Sparks of Hope. That's my opinion, we'll see what actually happens. But I also think there's a great chance Ubisoft might take some technology that they had and repurpose it for a new series that's a Nintendo series. I look at the success they had with Starlink Battle for Atlas. It wasn't very successful, however, the most successful version was the Switch version, which had the Star Fox content. I do feel like Nintendo and Ubisoft would take a look at that and consider the possibility of making a new Star Fox title with this technology in mind from the very beginning. I think they could actually make something very special there, especially with Nintendo being heavily involved. That's just a possibility, and it's also possible there may not be any sort of exclusive Ubisoft title. They may just be focusing on high-quality ports like Star Wars Outlaws. But there is the history there, and there's also the success of the Mario Rabbids series, so I gotta think there has to at least have been some conversations. Now, some people might be wondering about what Goodfeel could have been working on, but historically speaking, they've been making Yoshi games, and we just got announced Yoshi and the Mysterious Book, so odds are that's what they've been working on. But a team that I expect to announce something relatively soon is Platinum Games. Platinum Games has a history of making a variety of Nintendo exclusives or timed exclusives. We have Astral Chain, the Bayonetta series, The Wonderful 101, Star Fox Zero, so there could be something announced relatively soon, and actually the last time they put out a game for us was Bayonetta 3, so in 2026 it will have been 4 years. I think it's been a reasonable amount of time to at least expect an announcement pretty soon. What do I think that announcement might be for? I think our best bet is an Astral Chain sequel. Astral Chain did relatively well from a sales perspective. It had great reviews. It's a pretty fantastic game. Story-wise, there was definitely room for a sequel. Like, that was pretty obvious if you played through the game. And also, they even had a reference to it with the first trailer revealing the gameplay for Bayonetta 3. So I definitely think Astral Chain has definitely been in the minds of Platinum Games, and I think there's a great chance this could be announced pretty soon as sometime next year. Now, another team that I think is perhaps even more likely is going to be announcing something relatively soon for Nintendo is Mercury Steam. Mercury Steam is responsible for Metroid Samus Returns in 2017 and Metroid Dread in 2021. Metroid Dread was a very successful game, and it's certainly been enough time for them to get another one ready. So I would not be totally shocked, especially with the rumors suggesting that something could be announced for Metroid's 40th anniversary next year. Now, another big company that's worked with Nintendo to put out some fantastic Nintendo titles is Bandai Namco. They've put out so many. Multiple Smash Bros. Titles, new Pokemon Snap, Pokken Tournament, they helped out with ARMS. I definitely think that they could have something else in the works. However, it should be pointed out that Masahiro Sakurai, the creator of Smash Bros. And Kirby, is working with Bandai Namco on Kirby Air Riders, which is about to come out. So I'm not sure it's a safe expectation to think that the next Smash Bros. Will be announced, like, really soon. However, I will also say that Bandai Namco has worked on multiple Nintendo projects at once, and odds are they probably are already having conversations and may already be doing some early work for Smash Bros., even with Kirby Air Riders about to come out. So while I'm not expecting the next Smash Bros. To come out very soon, I don't think it's completely out of the realm of possibility that some sort of Smash Bros. Announcement or another Nintendo Bandai Namco project could be announced within the next couple years. Some teams that people might bring up, Grezzo, Intelligent Systems, Camelot, I think these teams are likely not going to be responsible for any announcements anytime soon. Grezzo just came out with Echoes of Wisdom last year, Intelligent Systems is responsible for Fire Emblem, and we just saw the announcement for Fortune's Weave, and Camelot is known for making Mario Tennis games, and we just got Mario Tennis Fever announced. So odds are, we're not seeing any other projects from these studios anytime soon. Maybe Grezzo, because next year is Zelda's 40th anniversary, and perhaps they've been working on something smaller that could come out next year, or they've been working in conjunction with someone else to get something bigger out for the 40th anniversary. That's possible. Maybe some co-development could be going on. Now, Game Freak, obviously, because this happens almost every single year, is going to announce a new Pokemon title next year. Generation 10 is expected next year. That is probably going to be announced for Pokemon Day, the 30th anniversary for Pokemon, next February. But moving on to the internal Nintendo teams, who has something cooking? Well, we have Next Level Games. They typically come out with a game every 3 years, and they were due for something in 2025. And at this point, I think it's pretty fair to say that they're not coming out with something in 2025. However, that only strengthens my belief that they're likely very close to something being finished, especially considering that we've been seeing a lot of hirings throughout the year that suggests that they're working on a new project already or hiring for a new project, which implies that their current project is reaching a conclusion. My bet is that they are working on Luigi's Mansion 4, because that is their most successful series, and they likely would want to get out Luigi's Mansion 4, a follow-up to one of the most successful Switch games, Luigi's Mansion 3, early on for Switch 2. But of course, I'm open to them working on something else that could be pretty cool, but honestly, Luigi's Mansion 4 might be really hype and be a great demonstration of Switch 2 hardware. Now, another studio that I think could be coming out with something fairly soon is Monolith Soft. They are pretty good with coming out with some substantial releases with some pretty good consistency. They did, however, just come out with Xenoblade Chronicles X Definitive Edition this year, so maybe there is some reason to think that we may have to wait a little bit longer. However, their last totally new title was Xenoblade Chronicles 3, which was in 2022, so when you think about it like that, maybe it's not that far off whatever is next, and we do know that they are no longer hiring for their new IP, which they had a hiring page for throughout the entire Switch era, and they only recently took it down to put up a new hiring page for their next RPG project, presumably whatever is going to follow up for the Xenoblade series, that's likely many years away. And there is a leak that has been proving more and more true. Leaks that have come out from Midori. There have been these 8 different codename leaks, 3 of which have been confirmed, 2 others are likely to be real. I'm talking about Breath of the Wild, Super Mario Party Jamboree, Echoes of Wisdom. Those were confirmed from the codename leaks. Donkey Kong Bonanza and Splatoon Raiders are the likely 2 other codenames, and then the 3 others, one of them might be Monolith Soft's next title in what supposedly is being called internally Project Legacy. I believe this is likely the new IP project because that does not line up with Xenoblade codenames, and it's something I expect to be announced if not next year, definitely 2027 at the very latest, considering the consistency of Monolith Soft releases. Now, another codename project might be coming from EPD4, who is responsible for Switch Sports, Ring Fit Adventure, and more. This codename would be for Project Anna. Now, Switch Sports had the codename of Elsa, so it's believed that this could be a follow-up to Switch Sports. Some were speculating that Dragon Drive might be what this Project Anna could be, but we've since learned that Dragon Drive was made by a very small team and not the next major effort from EPD4, so that could be announced relatively soon. The last codename leak is for Project SP Red, which is likely a mainline Mario title because Red is usually used for the different mainline Mario title codenames. Now, the thing about this one though is that the Mario Odyssey team, the team that would be working on the next Mario project, the next mainline one, did just come out with Donkey Kong Bonanza, which leads many to believe that this project would be far off. However, these codename leaks appear to be all for titles that are not too far off, and I've actually been theorizing for many years that the 3D Mario team has been working on both Mario and 3D Donkey Kong at the same time. The 3D Donkey Kong part, Donkey Kong Bonanza, has been confirmed. We've yet to see confirmation of the next 3D Mario project, but also, why wouldn't Nintendo be working on 3D Mario? They always are working on 3D Mario, and they've always had a mainline new Mario title available fairly early on into the generation. So I still think there's a really good chance that the next mainline Mario could be announced next year, probably after the release of the Mario movie, very similar to how Nintendo handled the follow-up to the prior Mario movie, where in the summer they announced a mainline 2D Mario in Mario Wonder. It's a great way to follow up the success of the Mario movie, its popularity, and see increased sales. So I still have high optimism that Super Mario Universe, that's what I'm calling it for now, will be announced next year, in the summer. But you know, if I am to think that after the entire Switch 1 era, the Mario Odyssey team was not only working on Donkey Kong Bonanza, but also another part of them was working on the next 3D Mario, I would say it would also be intellectually consistent to think something similar for EPD Group 9, the team behind Mario Kart World. We know that they are working on Mario Kart World throughout pretty much the entire Switch 1 era, but it's kind of hard to believe that they were only working on Mario Kart World throughout this time. I think more realistically, they had to have been working on another project. So the question is, what is that other project? And the fact of the matter is, there is a variety of possibilities. One might think it's the next ARMS, maybe they'll call it Legs, maybe it's the next Nintendogs. Both of those would be fine options. It also might be something this team hasn't handled before. And thinking through every series I've brought up and planned to bring up throughout this video, there are certainly some series that haven't been accounted for. Like, are we ever going to see a new F-Zero, for example, or a new Kid Icarus, or a new Wave Race? And there's no guarantee that Ubisoft is going to be responsible for the next Star Fox game. Now, it's also a possibility that none of these IP are in the works currently, but I gotta think that Nintendo will be revisiting these IP and others eventually, and there's always a few surprises every year, so I'm not sure what else this team would be working on, but I do think it's something else, something that's likely going to be pretty cool, and I just also want to say that, yes, I'm aware of the other Nintendo IP, and I'm sure Nintendo has plans for a variety of them, however long it may take for these different plans to come to fruition. Now, another series that some people are probably wondering about is Animal Crossing, but the thing is, EPD5 is also responsible for Splatoon, not just Animal Crossing, and we are expecting Splatoon Raiders to come out sometime next year, so Animal Crossing probably isn't also coming out next year, but because Splatoon Raiders is a spin-off, it does give me some optimism that that's not taking away too many resources, and right now they're a little bit more focused on getting out the next mainline Animal Crossing out before the next mainline Splatoon. So while I'm not super confident that the next Animal Crossing will be announced next year, I don't think it's that far off either. It'll happen before the next mainline Splatoon title. And to close out, I want to talk about the Zelda team. They did come out with Tears of the Kingdom in 2023, and given the history of big mainline Zelda titles taking 5 to 6 years to come out, I don't think it's realistic to expect an announcement for the next 3D Zelda next year. However, next year is also Zelda's 40th anniversary. We've been seeing some signs that they do want to have a little bit of a build-up, and there have been rumors to support that idea. And it's always possible they at least tease the next Zelda years in advance, because that is what they have done for prior Zelda projects, the mainline ones. But also, when it comes to the theorized, by many, myself included, The Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time remake, which many believe could be the most ambitious remake we've ever seen from Nintendo, there's a rumor that it's being made internally, which leads me to think that the Zelda team would have some part in that, and next year is Zelda's 40th anniversary, and I do think they would want to have at least one major anniversary title, so we might see that announced next year, which could be a great holdover for 3D Zelda fans, so they have something to be excited about early on to switch to a generation until Nintendo is ready for the next proper, totally new mainline Zelda. And that pretty much sums up my thoughts going over all the different teams that could be working on a Nintendo title that could be announced relatively soon. And I'm sure there are some smaller projects and other collaborations I've missed, so if you can think of something, please point it out in the comments below, but I think I got the gist, and there are certainly some pretty substantial things that likely are going to be announced fairly soon. So there is a lot to look forward to beyond this already pretty good year of 2025. But what do you all think? Let me know in the comments below. This is AndresRestart, thank you so much for listening and watching, and I will see you all really soon. Take care. Bye.